Good evening, I'm Darlene Arden, and welcome to Creatively Speaking. My guest this evening is author C.J. West. C.J. embraces social networking and keeps in touch with readers on MySpace, Goodreads, and Facebook. Do you get inside each of the characters, or do you feel Randy sort of owns you at this point?
Randy has a lot of my imagination at this point. One of my favorite characters is Cassie Corcoran. Remember Cassie Corcoran? I talked to a newspaper reporter who had covered me a little bit last year, and she actually turned me on to a crime writer from the west of Massachusetts. And this woman is Cassie's age. She does Cassie's job. And she sat down with me for a couple hours and really became a lot of the foundation for Cassie Corcoran. And I'm really falling in love with that character. I really enjoy writing Cassie Corcoran because I really feel like she's a real person to me. And the writer joked to me recently. She said, well, she's going to change her name to Cassie. I thought that was great. So she's really enjoying being part of the book.
That's wonderful. Do you find that your following is building?
Absolutely. You know, when I started out, I wrote Sin and Vengeance, was the first book that I published, and I didn't have a single reader in the world. And I started out very slowly, sort of one by one, and then I released Taking Stock next, which is, it's a prequel to Sin and Vengeance, and it's a very different feel of a story. And I had a bigger audience. We had a launch party at my home, and we had about 40 people show up. And this year for A Demon Awaits, my audience has really grown. We have about 70 or 80 people for the launch party, and there's a little bookstore in my hometown, which I do about 3 signings a year with, and they're shipping books all over the world now.
Wow.
Which is really great. It's the social networking really kicking in and starting to work.
I was going to ask what's done it for you, because building a readership and building an audience for your work, it's one thing to write the book.
Right.
But it does no good to write it if nobody reads it. What's the point? It's an exercise in futility.
Right. Well, it's a great feeling. I met someone this week, and she came to one of my signings. She drove an hour to come and see me and shake hands and chat with me. And when I asked her what she had thought, she was reading Sin and Vengeance, she just lit up. And it's such a great feeling when someone is that excited about your work. And that's the sort of thing that's helped me sort of come from a total unknown to sort of spreading out in the world.
And you're reaching people. What I find interesting is that you self-published. There was a time when self-publishing was very much looked down upon, and now there are still some tacky vanity press operations out there, but self-publishing has become something very different. What was that process like for you, and why did you make that decision?
Well, it's a difficult process, I will say. There are some things that I really like about the print-on-demand technology. You're able to print the books to meet the demand that is out there for your work. And with Amazon, it's very efficient. One of the things that turned me off about publishing originally was these publishers were printing 100,000 copies of a book and shipping it to all of the bookstores, and then they would rip the covers off and throw the books away if they didn't sell. So that turned me off a bit. I think one of the things that really makes self-publishing work is that things like MySpace and Facebook, the social networking sites, allow authors to really reach out one by one and connect with readers. And I think readers really enjoy that. People who have read my work can send me a note, ask me about, what was I thinking when I did this, just like you are. And I'll respond to them. And I think that's a great experience for them. They don't have to go to the bookstore if they don't want to, but if they do, they can come out to a bookstore, shake hands with me, and meet me in person.
Right. But on the other hand, every author cannot get to every city.
Right.
I've had a lot of demands for that, so I know. I speak from experience. When are you coming to such and such? Well, it's not going to happen necessarily.
I'm struggling with that this year, especially. I have some pockets of fans in different cities who really want me to come, and they've sort of gotten together and say, well, we're all here in Dallas and we're all here in Kentucky, and can you come and see us? And it's a difficult thing. So I'm in that in-between ground of the local author trying to reach out to a national audience. It's difficult.
It's very hard, and nobody really talks about that, so I'm glad we're getting into that a little bit. People don't understand that even the mainstream publishers are telling people not to do book signings. They don't feel it's economically feasible.
Right.
We're seeing a downturn in gas prices right now, But you can't always drive to every bookstore and guarantee that everybody's going to come out.
Right, but you know, there really is something to meeting folks in person and talking
I
to them
agree.
face to face. I think people really appreciate that. And you know, the woman who drove an hour to see me last week, you know,
Made it worthwhile for both of you.
yeah, it was definitely worthwhile for her. So I try every time I release a book to do signings. I have a set of signings that I'll do maybe 10 or 12 weeks in a row. I'll be out somewhere every single week so that people can come out and see me.
That's great. There's just that interaction, but even if nobody shows up, and I've had that happen. Have you ever given a party and nobody came? I have had that happen. The night the Clinton tapes were released in book form, I had a book signing. I wasn't
Right.
the only one. Nobody showed up. They showed
Right.
up for that. It was at the next table.
Right.
You're still meeting the person who's going to hand sell your book, the person in the
Absolutely.
bookstore, so it's never a loss.
No, I mean, I'm building lots of great relationships right now as I
Important.
sort of come out. And the film option has really inspired me to work a lot harder at getting myself out there. Just, you know, if the movie does get made, I'll have to do things like a national tour and really get myself out. So I'm sort of warming up to that.
What was that like to have the book option for a film?
It was very exciting. I didn't know what to do with myself at first. And it came totally out of the blue. I had sent the book to some people after these book clubs kept telling me this would be a great film, this would be a great film.
Mm-hmm.
I sent it to some producers and some studios and got no response. And then a woman from a small screenwriting firm contacted me. She had purchased my book, said I want an option.
Wow.
And it just came out of left field. It was really spectacular. And the process has run most of this year and it's been really great for me.
Has it? There's always some sort of, you know, it's either going to be really good or really bad.
Yeah.
But do you feel that the screenwriter has done justice to your book?
Well, I've learned a lot. I don't know about justice, but I've certainly learned a lot. All the authors that I've talked to, some of the bigger names, have said, you know, cash the check, smile, and do whatever they tell you to.
I've heard that.
We've been very participative in the process. I've been an advisor, and I've worked very closely. I've become really good friends with Marla, who's a screenwriter. And we did some fun things. We have some really hardcore fans in my area, and we invited them to read an early version of the screenplay.
Oh, very smart.
Yeah, they really had fun. A lot of them, it was the first time they ever read a screenplay. And then they came to my home, and we had a group of about 10 people, and we talked for about 3 hours on book versus movie, things they liked, things they'd like to see. And Marla was there virtually. She's on the phone. And I think she really walked away with some great ideas for the film. And I hope that will really make this film a better film because she took the time to listen to all those readers.
Wow. I mean, that is just really incredible that you would pull that together for her and that she agreed to that.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very, very cooperative. She's very interested in my take on, you know, the motivations for the characters and the relationships and where the strengths of it are. We did another session. I was speaking in a book group when she first started writing, and she called in while I was there. And one of the people at the book group gave her an idea that is in the film right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's a whole scene, and it's you know, right there, right in the middle of the film.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So she's very open. This sounds great. So where do you go from here? You're working on another book in the series. Do you have any idea how long this series is going to run? I mean, some series run for like 20, 30 books, and others...
I love writing the character, and I have some ideas on what I'm going to do with this series. I'm going to keep bringing Cassie Corcoran back because I really enjoy Cassie's character, and I think the Reverend will keep coming in for some perspective. And I intend to make Randy a character who's sort of on the run and doesn't have a home and is looking to help people save themselves. And I think I envision, you know, another 8 or 10 books in the series.
Wow. That is so exciting.
Yeah, it's very
I'm
exciting.
so glad you've joined us tonight on Creatively Speaking. Thank you so much. We're going to look forward to your books, and I hope everyone will run out and buy C.J. West's books. Start with Sin and Vengeance, then go back to Taking Stock. Well, you could probably read Taking Stock first, don't you think?
Sure. You know, one of the things that I suggest to folks is start with Sin and Vengeance and go to A Demon Awaits, because those two are very closely linked.
They're very tight.
They're very closely linked.